Good? Thank you.
Now, authorization of execution of an interagency agreement with King County Solid Waste in the amount of $20,000 for waste production and recycling.
Good evening, Mayor, Council. This is another aspect of the waste discussion that just ended, a little bit different take rather than residential service. This is a collection event that is and a grant opportunity that King County offers that I understand the City of Pacific has done in prior years. And this allows the general public to come and recycle white goods like refrigerators or washers, dryers, wood, metal, and other bulky type of recyclables, as well as maybe household appliances. And the good thing about this grant is it's reimbursable, that King County, it'll be a pass-through that will get this back to us in the community. And as I understand, as I learn more about this, that it's a very popular event in the community. And the interagency agreement is there for your consideration, and if there are any questions, certainly give what I can.
Council questions? Council pleasure? Let's move that forward. Next up, Resolution 2014-221, authorizing change order number 4, $80,000 on the Steward Rd contract.
Okay. This particular item was discussed at last week's Public Works Committee and broached again in Calgary last time. As the project continues underway on Steward Road, there was an issue related to the design of the pedestrian signal pedestals, and this change order to install it and remain compliant with ADA requirements, as well as to facilitate the maintenance of the installed infrastructure. This change order is needed, and it adds the additional pedestals that weren't part of the design. They increase the concrete, they increase some of the wiring and the conduit, and then of course the labor that's represented to install that additive work. And then the maintenance contract, additional video cameras are added a little bit different than were originally thought as they explored it and what King County can actually provide as far as the maintenance service. And just to help, King County is our service provider for all of the traffic signals that we have in the city. So in this instance, it was felt that it's a very good idea to keep that standard the same, because they are our service provider. And if they didn't provide the maintenance, we'd have to go out and find a whole other vendor to look at just these few signals on Steward Road. So long way of saying this is a change order that is coming. It's been reviewed and seems justified given the design components that were not present. Any questions?
How did we get in a situation where we designed something that wasn't ADA compliant?
I can't speak to the design that was put together. I know there was some difficulty through that process for the Steward Road and the design contractor. I think you've heard me say before that some of these design issues that have cropped up during the performance of the contract, we certainly are keeping track of those, and at the end of the project, we'll certainly, if there's design issues where we have to feel we can go back to the design engineering team and address some of these issues, that would be our approach. And just one last thought on this is contracts go, there's give and take throughout the performance. Maybe just end with a little bit of good news, is we're actually looking at a change order that will provide a credit. So in another council meeting, we'll be bringing one that has a credit rather than going the other direction.
Further council questions? Council's pleasure? All right, we'll move that forward. Next, referral from the Public Works Committee, frontage road trash analysis.
In this particular one, as you probably recall, a few weeks ago, brought forth a procedure of how to look at speed limits throughout the city. And the genesis goes back even prior to me being here, that there was incident on West Valley that led to the emergency closure of the road, and then reducing during that emergency period the speed limits on frontage. Well, with the procedure in place, there's now an opportunity to go and evaluate the speed limit and follow the procedure. Because it's an arterial classified street, it requires a traffic engineering analysis. I have a price from a vendor that can do this for us, and it's approximately $5,600. And so the conversation last week at Public Works Committee was to bring it forward and just see if there were additional discussion items that you as the full council would like to take up before direction was given on this particular topic.
Council discussion. I will note, one of the things that came up is there aren't very many streets in the city that are arterials, but where they are, they're classified federally and regulated at the state level, and we do have a higher obligation to maintain the right procedure on setting speed limits on them. For other streets that are not arterials, if we wanted to do a bucket approach and look at a whole bunch of them at once, we could do that if there's any desire to change the speed limits elsewhere. But for the arterials, we do need the traffic study.
So, I'm just thinking out loud here, so if we follow proper procedures in determining and setting speed limits on these roads, it can't, if anything, it would help us with grants and fixing them as long as we're compliant. If we're doing something outside of the boundaries, it might say it could hurt us for grant opportunities. Is that possible, or?
I'm not sure on the grant opportunities. It's more of the enforcement end where there's the bigger issue.
Can you
Ticket
explain
could
that
be
further?
fine. Ticket could be fine if they lower the.
There are also potential liability issues if we fail to note conditions that would require a lower speed limit and somebody gets hit. If we just arbitrarily set a speed limit and it turns out that one of those driveways does not have adequate sight distances and it should have been lowered to 20, then we could be liable for having not lowered it. In general, anytime you follow the standards, you're shoving liability off onto someone else.
I think to answer your question, though, council member, about the grant possibility, is the federal and state grants are typically only for those roads or streets that are classified as arterial, anything that's a local access. So in an event, if for example, a street had been rezoned in the area and there was more traffic or industrial potential and you wanted to up-classify, that would be the opportunity to examine whether it made sense to look at the street to classify it to make it competitive for a grant, but it typically would be an upsize from a local or an upzone from a local street to an arterial. It does happen, but it is a rare instance.
I think, for example, on that, that's how we got the grant for the sidewalk and paving on Third several years back, is that Third is officially an arterial, even though it is effectively mostly a local street. It's a big enough local street to qualify to be an arterial. Further council discussion?
I just have a question. Usually I see signs that say unless otherwise specified it's 25 miles an hour. Does this street apply? Does that apply to this road? If we just pull down the sign, it's just automatically 25?
No, unfortunately, well, I shouldn't say unfortunately, but I would just answer no. The prior city council, by ordinance, set the speed limit at 35. And then to do another change of that, it has to be by ordinance, and the speed study, however it shakes out, will allow this council to entertain any changes.
Okay.
Also, I believe Pacific does not have those signs posted anywhere that say speed limit 25 unless otherwise posted. We have some, we designate speed, street by street in code. We have so few of them. We designate districts, but we don't have it posted by default.
One more comment, council, before I seek any direction, is that at this juncture, there's a contract possibility, but the paperwork has not been started. If it's your pleasure to do so, This may or may not come forward at the next council meeting, but if your direction is to proceed, I will certainly get that pulled together as quickly as possible. Just, you may not see it at the next meeting.
So this is something that wasn't planned for in the 2015 budget, is that correct?
I think this would be considered part of the professional services generally within the street budget.
Further council discussion? Move forward? Thank you, council.
You guys done signing this?
Huh?
You didn't sign it?
No, I am.
I didn't get a card. Could you, okay, could you pass it around? These are for staff, and I'm supposed to be all council.
I already signed them all. I come in early.
Next is reappointment of park board commissioners.
Two members of the city's park board, permission, or terms for two members of the city's park board will expire at the end of the year. The appointments are for Kate Call and Gary Nitschke. And Mayor Geyer is recommending their reappointment.
Council discussion?
Really?
We have
You may not know who Kate Cole is, because it's our council meeting. Talk about park action. So then, of course, we all know who Gary is, and we all know your name. It's very active on the park board. That's easy,
Smile, Gary.
an easy thing to do is to have a
No challenge, but I'll be reappointed.
Sounds like council pleasure to move that forward. Next, ordinance 2014-1887, amending the 2014 budget.
Let's move it forward.
It was kind of late in the year not to do it, because we've already spent the other money, right?
Well, kind of. We'll get to that right now. This is a little more than about spending money, but, so, yes. Last year, I think we got done the same time we did the budget, which really didn't work out this year. However, I put everything in, I did projections based on the last 2 weeks of the month, based on our last payroll, and then if we have any bills that have to be paid. So we've been watching it really tightly, and I think I have enough room in there that we won't go over if you approve this. But I'm pretty sure we won't, because I won't let it happen. So, because I am going on vacation next week, but I'm going to be checking these numbers every day. So, that's right, it's more like an ice cube. So, do you have any questions about the narrative I put in there for you? So hopefully I would help you understand how this works. Because we do it by fund, as council knows. However, I wanted you to know what makes that up to some extent, so you can be making a decision based on knowledge instead of just, the whole fund balance.
Council discussion? Council pleasure?
Thank you.
Oh, wait.
I did have a question, I was back with the car, 6 a.m. Trying to pull over on it. What are you trying to buy? For the general fund, the police car?
Yes.
Was there revenue that came in for that?
Yes. Yes. But you still have to account for it as an expenditure separate from the revenue. So our revenue did go up, but we don't have to, we do have to amend the budget when it pushes it to balance too high, which is what happened. The general fund has been pushed higher, but it was fine. Just that equipment replacement fund, so you won't see that happen again, hopefully.
Okay, now, any further council discussion on the budget amendment? We'll move that forward. And next item on our agenda is an executive session to discuss review negotiations on the performance of publicly bid contracts, ICW 423110D. Do you have an estimated time on this?
10 minutes?
All right, 10 minutes?
Which one goes six?
That's fine.
Oh, okay.
This being a workshop, there is no action before or after.